If you think bartenders only exist in bars, let me introduce you to Meng Po, the sacred mixologist of the underworld, famous for her signature dish, Meng Po Soup. Her recipe for the broth of forgetfulness has remained a mystery for thousands of years. Once consumed, it wipes away all earthly debts and heartbreaks, except for debts owed to the living, which seem to linger forever. But few know that Meng Po herself once had a heartbreaking past. She loved, she suffered, and then, she became a soup vendor. Throughout her time as the tea mistress by the Naihe Bridge, she has witnessed countless tales of love, hatred, and absurd situations, so much so that even she sometimes needs a sip of tea to calm her nerves. So, let's dive into her life and the two extraordinary stories intertwined with her fateful profession. Expect laughter, deep reflections, and maybe even a reconsideration of what you wish to remember, or forget. The love story of Meng Po, a heartache by the Wangchuan River. Once upon a time, long before the earth had dating apps, there was a girl named Du Yan. She wasn't the kind of beauty that could bring nations to their knees, but she was charming enough to make village boys turn their heads, and occasionally crash into lampposts. As for her personality? Well, she was a bit of a dreamer and had a touch of drama queen in her. Du Yan fell in love with a young man named Truong Fong, the perfect ancient-era heartthrob, tall, fair-skinned, neatly tied hair, and most importantly, a master of poetic flirting. For example, "You are like the moon so bright, I shall be the banyan in the night. Every evening, I await your grace, ignoring mosquitoes biting my face." Honestly, the poetry was terrible, but when a handsome man speaks, everything sounds romantic. And so, they fell in love, dreaming of a simple cottage with two golden hearts, sipping tea in the morning and stargazing at night. But life is never as dreamy as it seems. In fact, if it feels too much like a dream, it's probably a nightmare waiting to happen. War broke out, and Truong Fong was drafted into the army. Before leaving, he swore confidently, "Fear not, my love. I shall defeat the enemy as swiftly as a delivery rider on Lunar New Year, then I'll return to you." And so, every day, Du Yan went to the riverbank to wait, and wait, and wait. She waited so long that the villagers started calling her Yan who waits for her husband. Then, one stormy day, after a heavy downpour, people found her collapsed by the riverbank. Her last words before she passed away were, "Truong Fong, why is this delivery taking so long?" When Du Yan opened her eyes again, she found herself in a strange place. In front of her stood an elderly woman, hunched over, wearing a headscarf, smiling toothlessly. "Welcome, child. You've arrived at Naihe Bridge. Have a sip of this soup and forget your past life." Du Yan frowned at the murky bowl of soup in front of her and asked, "Huh? Where's the pearl topping? Or the cheese jelly?" The old woman chuckled kindly. "This is the soup of forgetfulness, not bubble tea, my dear. Drink it, and your heart will be at peace." But Du Yan shook her head. "No. I don't want to forget Truong Fong. I must wait for him." The underworld officials, overhearing her plea, reported the matter to the Jade Emperor. Sitting high above, he sighed deeply. "Ugh, another love story? Fine, let her keep her memories, but give her a job. From now on, she'll be Meng Po, brewing forgetfulness soup for other souls. Let's see if she's still a hopeless romantic after that." And so, Du Yan became Meng Po, spending her days by the fire, cooking her infamous soup of forgetfulness. Her memories remained, but over time, they slowly eroded like faded ink on an old scroll. All that was left was a lingering feeling, as if she had once known someone familiar. One day, while absent-mindedly ladling soup, Meng Po suddenly froze. Standing before her was a tall young man with a strangely familiar face. "Young man, what is your name?" she asked. "I am Truong Fong. Just logged out of my life as a soldier. Died after getting hit by a stray arrow, while hiding behind a tree to eat breakfast." Boom. Meng Po felt as if lightning had struck her heart. It was him. Her Truong Fong. The man she had waited for all these years. But the cruel reality was, she was now a full-time employee of the underworld, while he was just a passing soul. And professional ethics were clear, no favoritism allowed. Truong Fong looked at her, confused. "Miss, why are you crying?" Meng Po gently wiped her tears. "Just the kitchen smoke, that's all. Drink up, and you'll have a smooth journey to reincarnation." Truong Fong held the bowl, hesitating. "Strange, why does my heart ache a little?" Meng Po sighed. "That's the feeling of an unfulfilled promise. But drink it, once you do, the pain will fade away." Truong Fong drank the bowl dry, then smiled as he stepped onto Naihe Bridge, his heart light as a feather. "And Meng Po?" She sat there, watching his figure fade into the mist. She murmured softly, "Truong Fong, in the next life, if you promise fast delivery, make sure you keep your word." And from that day on, in every bowl of soup Meng Po brewed, there was always a single tear. People say it carries the salty taste of unfinished love stories. But who knows, maybe it's just the lingering echo of an undelivered promise. The lesson here? Never trust grand declarations like, "I'll defeat the enemy and be back soon." History has proven, returns are rare, disappearances are far more common. The Avenger and Meng Po smile. Back in the days when the underworld had yet to digitize its records and Meng Po still had to keep ledgers with a calligraphy brush, there was a man named Naihe, known as the Great Avenger. Why great? Because even in death, he refused to let go of his hatred. Naihe was just an ordinary young man. He loved hot steamed buns, iced tea from street vendors, and, most of all, he absolutely despised a man named Tru Tuong. The reason? Tru Tuong had owed him 3 steamed buns for 10 years and never paid him back. Once, Hao even sent a message, well, not a text, more like a carrier pigeon, to remind him, "Brother, you still owe me those buns. You're rich now, surely 3 buns won't break the bank." Tru Tuong nonchalantly replied, "Those buns were a gift of friendship. Asking for them back is so petty." Naihe was furious. He swore, "If I can't get my 3 steamed buns back, I refuse to reincarnate." Right after making his vow, in a fit of rage, he stormed into the street, only to crash headfirst into a radish cart. He died on the spot. Naihe's soul drifted to Naihe Bridge, where Meng Po was busy preparing her soup. Seeing the elderly woman with silver hair, wrinkled skin, and a gentle smile offering him a bowl, Naihe immediately pushed it away. "I'm not drinking that. I need to get revenge on Tru Tuong." Meng Po raised an eyebrow. "Oh dear, this shop only serves forgetfulness soup, we don't sell grudges here. Drink up and let it all go." "No. Those 3 steamed buns are my honor. I can't forget." Meng Po burst into laughter. "My dear, I've seen people cry over love, over money, over family, but you, crying over steamed buns? This might just make the top 3 most ridiculous tragedies of the underworld. I'm serious, Granny. Help me reincarnate as a steamed bun tycoon so I can take my revenge." Meng Po thought for a moment, then replied slowly, "Fine. But on one condition, when you meet Tru Tuong again, you must forgive him." "Forget it. I'd rather be a wandering ghost than forgive him." Meng Po shrugged. "Suit yourself. But remember, hatred is like a stale steamed bun. Hold on to it for too long, and all you'll get is a stomachache." Naihe became a wandering ghost. Every night, he appeared in front of Tru Tuong's house, dressed in a flowing white robe, moaning, "3 steamed buns." Tru Tuong turned pale with fear and immediately hired a Taoist exorcist to banish the ghost. Upon seeing the thin, miserable spirit, the exorcist asked, "What is your grievance?" 3 steamed buns." The exorcist burst into laughter. "Wait here a moment." He then went out, bought 3 steamed buns, and placed them at the doorstep. Naihe was overjoyed and reached for them, until he heard Tru Tuong's voice, "Cheap buns. Those aren't the Kobe beef ones I owed." Naihe snapped. He held in rage, "Tru Tuong. Are you mocking me?" After 7 years of failed haunting, Naihe returned to Naihe Bridge, looking as gaunt as a night owl. Meng Po was still there, smiling. "What's wrong, my little steamed bun avenger?" "I'm exhausted, Granny. Revenge is tiring. I gained nothing from my hatred, and now Tru Tuong is old, toothless, and can't even eat steamed buns anymore." Meng Po chuckled. "So, are you ready to drink the soup now?" "Yes. But can you add some scallions and chili for extra flavor?" Meng Po laughed, ladled the soup, and placed it in his hands. "See? Hatred never makes the heart lighter. Sometimes, forgiveness is the only way to cancel an order for the soul. Drink up. And in your next life, remember to enjoy your steamed buns while you can." Naihe drank it all in one go, a peaceful smile on his face. As he stepped onto Naihe Bridge, he murmured, "In my next life, maybe I'll just collect debts for iced tea instead." In his next life, Naihe was reborn as Luong Thien, a kind-hearted physician renowned throughout the capital. He devoted himself to healing others, never seeking fame or fortune. And strangely enough, whenever he prepared tea for his patients, he always had the habit of adding scallions and chili, though he never quite knew why. One day, an old, toothless man came to see Luong Thien for treatment. As he looked at the cup of tea, he suddenly froze. "Scallions, chili, this scent feels familiar." Luong Thien smiled. "This tea is special, it helps ease burdens and forget worries." The old man's eyes welled up. "Just like Meng Po Soup." Luong Thien flinched, his heart tightening for a reason he couldn't quite recall. The 2 men gazed at each other, a strange sense of familiarity hanging between them, like meeting an old friend from a forgotten past. Outside, a single leaf drifted down from the ancient banyan tree by the gate. The unfinished love story of the couple, by Naihe Bridge. Once upon a time, long before the world invented deadlines and bubble tea, there was a couple deeply in love, Lam Fong and Noyet Ni. Their love was so romantic that birds stopped singing, flowers bowed in admiration, and neighbors sighed, love like this? Who can handle it? Lam Fong was a devoted lover, a bit overly sentimental and, most notably, a master of terrible poetry. Noyat Ni, on the other hand, was sweet and graceful, with just one weakness: she was easily moved to tears, especially in emotional situations. They met at a village festival. The moment Lam Fong saw Noyat Ni, he immediately tried to flirt with an immortal poem: you shine like the full moon bright, my heart's tangled, lost in night. If you don't say yes today, I'll be sad till year's last light. Noyat Ni didn't know whether to be moved or to laugh at his words, but in the end, she nodded and gave him a chance. And so, they were together, sharing countless sweet moments. Unfortunately, life wasn't like poetry, and Lam Fong's poetry wasn't much like life either. Just when their love was at its sweetest, war broke out. Lam Fong was drafted into the army. On the day of their farewell, he held Noyat Ni's hands, his eyes shimmering like a lead actor in a Korean drama, and declared, wait for me. I will return before the old banyan tree at the village gate sheds all its leaves. Noyat Ni wept until her eyes were swollen, while the banyan tree secretly chuckled, I'm an evergreen tree, how am I supposed to lose all my leaves? Noyat Ni waited. Spring passed, summer arrived, then came the bitter cold of winter. The banyan tree remained lush and green, but Lam Fong was nowhere to be found. She cried so much that the village river nearby was eventually renamed Tears River. In the end, she passed away in regret, her soul drifting to Naihe Bridge. At Naihe Bridge, Noyat Ni met Manba, the expert brewer of the soup of forgetfulness. Manba handed her a bowl of soup and smiled gently, drink, child. Once you drink, all your pain will fade away. Noyat Ni stared at the bowl and shook her head, I can't forget. I want to wait for the one I love. Manba sighed, waiting here too long comes with a fee, you know. The underworld doesn't do free services. Just then, from a distance, a figure approached. It was Lam Fong. But cruelly, he did not recognize Noyat Ni. After years of war and falling into a coma under the bridge, his memories had faded away. Noyat Ni burst into tears, do you not recognize me? It's me, Noyat Ni. The one you promised to return to when the banyan tree lost all its leaves. Lam Fong scratched his head, but that tree is evergreen? How was I supposed to know? Manba stood beside them, smiling gently, fate works in mysterious ways. If you remember each other in this life, perhaps you will meet again in the next. But if you refuse to forget, your heart will never find peace. Drink, my child. Noyat Ni hesitated, then finally took the bowl. She glanced at Lam Fong one last time, thinking to herself, in the next life, please, just don't write poetry anymore. And she drank it all. Lam Fong also drank his bowl of soup. The two of them stepped onto the bridge, passing by each other like strangers. But at the moment their shoulders brushed, both felt a faint shiver run down their spines. Manba shrugged, another pair who loved each other but met at the wrong time. Oh well, time for a break, let's have some steamed buns. On the surface of the Vongshiyan River, two dry leaves spun gently before drifting in opposite directions. They say that if the leaves ever meet again, the lovers will reunite in the next life. In their next life, Lam Fong was reborn as a village physician, known for prescribing bitter medicine that made children burst into tears at the mere sight of him. As for Noyat Ni, she became a dance teacher, mastering a move called Dragon Coils, Clouds Soar, so intense that birds mistook it for an earthquake. One fine day, Lam Fong was at the market searching for a laughing carrot, rumored by village healers to be a great remedy for colds, when he accidentally bumped into a young woman. It was Noyat Ni. Oh, are you all right? Lam Fong asked, awkwardly helping her pick up the scattered garlic and onions. Noyat Ni looked up. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, their hearts skipped a beat. But then, who are you to go knocking over my onions and garlic, she huffed. I'm a physician, Lam Fong chuckled nervously. But I don't have a cure for temper tantrums. After that collision, the two kept running into each other, at the market, at festivals, and even at the temple while praying for love. Before long, they fell for each other. Though, every time Lam Fong recited poetry, Noyat Ni had to take deep breaths, just to stay calm. One moonlit night, as they strolled by the lake, Noyat Ni suddenly burst into laughter. Do you remember the banyan tree that never shed its leaves? Lam Fong stopped in his tracks. A strange feeling tugged at his heart. The banyan tree, why does that sound so familiar? Far away, up in the clouds, Manba sipped her tea and smiled. Aha, looks like they found each other again in this life. Well then, my shift is over, time for some steamed buns.